Welcome to Roundy's Rants, Raves, and Reviews today. You guys, I have got an incredible young man here who's doing some incredible work with him and his company. And so I can't wait for you to learn about this with me. Dallin, will you introduce yourself and what you're doing?
Yeah, I would love to. My name is Dillan Case. I am the owner and curator of Infinite Valley Magazine. We are a short fiction magazine specializing in science fiction and fantasy. We officially launched Infinite Valley through our parent company, Navu Supply Co., officially at LDSPMA, how Tanya and I got acquainted. So we are on our second issue ever right now. We are open for people to come and submit new stories to us. We are particularly interested in new, not necessarily young, but people who haven't had a chance to get their foot in the publishing industry yet. And I'm a huge personal fan of the old Pulp Fiction format. This was inspired through. I'm a huge Orson Scott Card fan, so when I learned that Ender's Game originally came from a short fiction magazine like this, it was a short story. The same thing with Ray Bradbury's The Firemen, which later became Fahrenheit 451. I was like, shoot, why aren't we doing this anymore? So that's why I started Infinite Valley, and our parent company, Navu Supply Co., has taken us under their wing, and I'm just happy to help represent them.
Very cool. Well, that's a great place to start for this, right? With that is, what is it about fiction and the short story genre that appeals to you and so many people? And why do you think this is going to make a comeback in this style?
Attending different conventions, particularly in Utah, the big one that comes to mind for short fiction is Writers of the Future. And attending LTUE a few years ago, representatives from Writers of the Future had specifically said something is in the water in Utah, which made me feel nice, being from there. And what I think is most interesting and important about short fiction is the fact that it is really the easiest way to encounter brand new ideas that you haven't had a chance of seeing before, and giving it enough time to allow you to think about the idea. You could think of it almost like a bread. So the idea is like your yeast. You're going to let it rise, and then you're going to start punching it down into, how the idea properly will work. And then you put it in the oven, and then you let the story take form, take shape. It's a nice crust. And I think it's the best way to encounter and develop new ideas. You don't really see people encountering super brand new ideas as much through novels, unless, in my opinion, you're talking about the ones that did have their start with short fiction. So that's what I'm hoping to help try and find. I want to find not necessarily the next Ender's Game. I want to find the next whatever else Ender's Game could have been. So Infinite Valley it's already got a lot of really great additions. The very first issue here, Robert Hill's story, it's basically a zombie thriller, except it actually does have a cool new idea built into it. I can't say a full amount of it, but I think you should check it out at Navu Supply. So you can encounter these great new ideas. One of, I think, the coolest twists that he builds in with his story is that perhaps the zombies aren't zombies at all, and we are potentially reading from the perspective of one of the zombies. And so we're trying to figure out exactly how this horrible virus started and apocalypses have happened across the world. And you start realizing, oh, shoot, we might not be reading from the correct perspective. So a lot of fun. And all of the stories that we have curated so far have that cool element. That is my first rant, I shall say.
Awesome. I love it because as a person who, especially an English teacher and a literary person, you're right. A lot of the great starts, I mean, even Charles Dickens and those who we have log novels, they were serials in magazines and newspapers, and you got a chapter at a time, and you got installments, and each chapter had to be its own story and had to be fully developed, and these ideas, and good writing, if you can't do it short, you're not going to be able to do it long.
Exactly. Yeah, I absolutely agree. That has been my biggest tool. I mean, I don't know if you've had the chance or opportunity to try doing the short fiction. I mean, again, Writers of the Future, I think, is the big one. When I first started really getting into writing, and I'm like, man, I think I really should try to enter the publishing scene. that was where I got my beginning, and developed tons of these short stories, and I think that helped my craft honestly more than anything, because if I was able to boil it down to this proper idea and bring it to its full conclusion in, potentially 20, 30 pages, the idea sticks with you so much harder than if I spent all of that time here, here's my world, here's the different characters, here's what clothes they wear. You're actually getting into the meat of the story. And that's what I particularly love.
Absolutely. And you brought up Fairy Night for Everyone, which is one of my most favorite books of all time, Huck Finn, things like that, that they get to the heart of it. They get the message and the theme across it. And I love teaching short stories to my students too, because they're digestible for them. You don't have to if you love reading the novels and all, that's great. And I think those are important too. But if they can get a short story and I can teach them those skills in a short story, then they can find them in the larger novels and they can look at that more deeply. But sometimes I need a quick, hey, we can read this in a half an hour and get by. What have you found with fiction so far, or what's been happening with fiction even in our study day? And what are you trying also to get with in your stories and stuff as well?
Yeah, so I am a big believer that, oh boy, I hope I'm not going totally off the rails, but the name of the podcast has rants in it, so hopefully
That's
I'm
what we're
not
here
going.
for.
Okay,
We get to
good.
rant all we want. Yep.
I think, I promise what I'm about to say will have a point. I'm going to bring it.
It's
I'm gonna
okay.
bring it
That's
around.
fine. That's what this is. Yep.
I think it is fair to say that for certainly as long as I've been alive, that men have been under a particular attack via sexual content. It frustrates me. I just had a son, and he's turning a year old, and I'm starting to take. Oh yeah, you might have
I
remembered
met
him.
him. Yeah, he's so
Yeah,
cute.
yeah. I'm starting to take exceptional attention to what is like, if there's something on the TV, we don't really like let him watch TV anyway. We don't give him like the iPads or anything. But I'm starting to take special attention to, yeah, maybe he shouldn't be looking at, bikini clad perfume model, whatever is going on. So visually speaking, I think men in particular have been under a direct attack, certainly longer than I've been alive.
Absolutely.
And a rising trend that I think is also fair to say that we're starting to notice quite predominantly is attacks on women, particularly young women. And you see this take different forms in, they're going to call them spice or, some
Nice
other.
romance. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And,
Adult.
but the thing is, and I even noticed this when I was a teenager, that these themes were creeping in into materials that certainly shouldn't be like it had. I feel bad like pointing out or calling out my mom, but had my mom known that I had a couple of the books that I remember reading in high school, she would have been like, ugh. Um,
Mhm.
and but it's treated as normal. And we do live in a society that is increasingly becoming totally fine with it. You should embrace this more sexually degenerate content. And what do you do about it? Furthermore, I was at Barnes and Noble yesterday. Again, I promise I'm going to bring this around, and I
It's
know
all
this is
good.
a
Yeah,
long rant, but
I hear you.
I was at Barnes and Noble yesterday. We were celebrating our anniversary, me and my wife.
Anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you. And, we're both interested in books. We're just shopping around. And we came to the banned books section. And I wonder if you'll agree with me being a teacher. I think the concept of banned books is ridiculous. I think it is very silly
Yeah.
because everything on that table is something that I have heard of. So clearly we haven't done a very good job of banning it. The only like real banned books I can think of are like the Anarchist Cookbook, which you will get put on a list if you look it up. And I
Right.
probably am on one because I tried when I was a teenager. So maybe I'll do a FOIA request when I get brave enough.
The FBI
And
also
then,
not.
literature that's just like deeply racist, like the Camp of the Saints,
Mhm.
that's not very easy to find. Perhaps justly, I'm not making any case that, that should be a popular book, but I think that's more fair to say that is a banned book. And the stuff that is openly promoted is this content with horribly sexual degenerate content, stuff that is in a sense intended for children. I even remember through some of my work, I visited a foster care facility and I noticed Twilight happened to be on the shelves. I'm like, this is really not good for children.
Teenagers and older, maybe. Yeah, there you go.
And that's a strong maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, this stuff really is creeping up. And, what do? It's still just words. So how do you combat that? Coming down finally to the point, I encountered Navu Supply Co, our parent company, a couple of years ago, and I loved their purpose. They're creating a marketplace primarily for Latter-day Saint creators, people who want to make cool t-shirts. I'm repping my Metallica parody. It's the metal
Hand of
place,
Nephi.
right?
Yes.
Hand of Nephi. Pretty cool. And I and they started getting into books, and that became one of their biggest selling points. Interestingly enough, particularly to a male audience, and I think it's generally well established that it's the better end of 70% of books sold tend to be sold to women. So it's cool that they've
Yeah.
captured that market. Navu Supply Co. understands that in order to create a good culture, one must not just create it, but find people who are also searching for it. And once we've found that audience, it's important to get people excited and hyped about it. They've successfully done that to me. And now through Infinite Valley, I found so many more people that are like, yeah, actually, we do need more cool ideas. And I shouldn't have to be able to, be cautious if I'm reading this in the car. And oh my gosh, I probably shouldn't be reading this with my 6-year-old in the backseat.
Right.
So I think it's deeply important for us to establish a good audience, find people who actually are interested. I think it's a growing number of people who are tired of seeing spice and smut in things that really, frankly, should not be in there. And in particular, for Latter-day Saints who are just trying to encounter cool new ideas, they don't have to feel uncomfortable about their beliefs being spat upon or treated as less than, which is important to me. So
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question. That was a very long answer, but
I love the rant. I
Yeah.
was just going to say I was like, just, yeah. I love it because so many times YA even stuff now, even that we're encountering at the junior high levels and the middle school levels are having spice in them and things,
Yeah.
or even elementary school level, they're using books and putting books on the shelves. Another author and I were talking a couple weeks ago about we're not into censorship, totally not, but there's an appropriate place and time and a place to put things that those who can choose things.
It's curation. It's okay to
Exactly.
curate things. Yeah.
And there's definitely some things that should not be on children's shelves. And there should be a variety of things that are clean. And here it's just so frustrating to me because it's like watching a TV show, right?
Yeah.
All but this much of the show was so good. I love VidAngel because I was like watching shows and all it took out was 4 minutes. And it didn't have anything to do with the plot. I understood the story just fine. I'm like, why is this in there? And it's purely because the world tells them that somehow this is supposed to be there to catch your audience when obviously when Hollywood does it, when people do the books right and things like this, people flock to good, clean, wholesome family from what Disney used to be, right? Where you could go and you could just have good lessons and good morals. And you're right, young men particularly, there's books for them and they're the hardest ones to get to read.
Yeah. I was very hard to get to read. My mom had a very difficult time.
And to find things that they'll be interested in reading and doing when all of it is smutty romance or, and they don't want to read the classics because even though those would be like great for them, I'm like, go read some Tom Sawyer, but it is. And as a teacher and as a mom and a grandma, it has been very hard because I've seen my kids go through it and my daughters who are trying to listen to books and they find a new audiobook and they're just like, this looks cool. And then halfway through a chapter, all of a sudden they're listening to it in the car and there it is. And you're just like language and all these things. And it's just so unnecessary to a good message, a good plot and a good character from what I have. Yeah. I'm so glad that you have found a way to do this. So when you guys are curating and you're accepting these things, what is it that you are particularly hoping to have people submit or look for when you're hoping to get into these books? Yeah.
I am most interested in finding my earlier rant was particularly talking about ideas
Mm.
and stuff that not necessarily you haven't seen before, but haven't seen taken to a different direction.
Okay.
So, what I am interested in finding is twists on things you may not have considered before. And one of the great examples will continually harken back to Orson Scott Card because he's my boy. I love Orson Scott Card. The cool part about Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game is the iconic line, "The enemy's gate is down." And the idea he was attempting to illustrate is when you're in battle school, you're trying to get the children to get a totally new understanding of gravity. And getting them so young, they have to figure out how to reorient themselves. And Ender, being the pseudo commander, and he later becomes the commander of his squad, teaches his men, his boys, well, here's what we got to do. Just consider ourselves falling. The enemy's gate is down. And that is how he was able to illustrate this new idea of figuring out how to fight. You're not looking to go this way and that way and all the other ways. We're falling down, take out the things that you need to, and there you go. Additionally, I think new writers, I have noticed this in our curation and even in my own earlier writings, that there is a hunger to be cinematically gritty. And it gets frustrating. I'm sure you've seen it as a teacher where you can tell that the writer has this idea and they love it, and all of these gritty, action-packed things are happening, and this guy's face just got smashed, and this guy has a really big sword, and there is a value to that in knowing how to use action I think there's a value in knowing how to use even violence in a story. We even see
Mhm.
this in the scriptures. It's not an alien
Absolutely.
concept. Knowing how to mature as a writer, not only will you learn properly how to use your ideas, how to proof them, if we're to use the bread analogy, how to proof them, allow it to rise, and then also using maturity to not allow the action and the grittiness to take over. A
Mhm.
story is not simply this thing happened and then another cool explosion. Where I'm being a little
Not
bit
Michael Bay over
hyperbolic.
and over again. Yeah.
Exactly. Being a little bit hyperbolic, but it's not just that. We really are looking at something more special. These are people, or maybe not sometimes people, the characters who are going about a real life. And I think it is worth, as a writer, when you're maturing, taking that life seriously.
Mhm.
It's not always the best case scenario to, in your story, have a gritty death scene. My mom never appreciated it when, the mom died. She loved Despicable Me 2. This is such an aside, but this just came to mind. She loved Despicable Me 2, not because it was a good movie. It was fine. It was serviceable. But at least there was a moment where they showed actually the mom is important and actually the children did need their mom, and it actually is good for parents to have or for children to have a healthy, loving relationship with
What?
two parental figures. Anyway, that's my thing on that. Does that answer your question? I feel like I went a
I
lot of
think
different.
yeah, no, that was great because I find that's a lot of what it is, though, even in science fiction, because science fiction itself is a place where I have found we get to explore ideas and explore concepts that are very human and very realistic and not futuristic and not in a sci-fi realm, but we take those real human, honest issues that we're facing and put them in a situation where we can analyze it and feel like we're in a different space, but still learn those ideas from a different perspective. I always like Star
Yeah.
Trek for that reason and
Oh
stuff like
yeah.
that, because you were put in these situations where aliens are handling this or having
Right.
moral conundrums that we face every day. And we get to see them play this out in a unique perspective that gives us a way to look at things from other people's points of views and to take and maybe see things that we wouldn't have seen before and understand our own world and our own selves better. And I love science fiction for that reason because yeah, fiction is great. And there's always in fiction and fictionalized real life, which is what I write. But science fiction itself in particular gives us that opportunity to kind of separate, but also be involved and taught at the same time. And so that
Totally
idea of
agree.
the other perspective is so important stuff. So,
I
well,
think
very,
if
but yeah,
oh yeah, sorry, yeah. To hopefully add on to your point, a story that springs to mind is Today I Am Carrie by Martin L. Shoemaker, which, if you can believe it, also started as a short story, it later became a novel.
I'll figure.
The both were phenomenal. But the novelization I found absolutely fascinating because I'm not a AI, I'm not scared of AI in the way that perhaps most people would expect sci-fi guys to be. But I'm not particularly persuaded by emotional robots like Baymax in Big Hero 6. I was like, oh dang, oh well, he died. And so I'm a bit like hard-hearted when it comes to AI. This novel, however, I was one of the very few times I was able to like, oh man, this poor robot. And I would catch myself like, what am I saying? This is totally challenging my view. So this particular robot has a job in society to take care of people who are going through late stage dementia. You're looking at Alzheimer's, people that need to be cared for, and society has, given this to the robot. And so this robot can take the form of family members, and that's how the people with Alzheimer's they can experience their memories with their family. And so you see this one particular robot go through society. He's purchased by this young woman for his mother. And then eventually the exact same thing happens to this girl later in life. And you start seeing a side of humanity come through because he is desperately trying to understand why humans are doing this. Why would they keep reproducing if they know that they're just going to
to die.
decay,
Yeah,
wash away? And then you see the robot himself go through the same analog of he starts to become obsolete. The family has long since passed, and he just desperately wants to try and connect with the family that he helped keep together in a way. And when the scene happened where poor Carrie finally has to be put down, I was like, this is devastating, this poor robot. And it totally challenged my idea of AI, of could a robot actually have a soul? And my general answer is still no, probably not. But the fact that one piece of fiction could challenge someone whose heart is so hard against robots like me, it is possible. It is a wonderful piece of art, and the art form of fiction writing is so powerful. I think it's fair to say that's why the Savior did it. The Savior didn't try to persuade us through analytics and statistics. He did it through parables and stories. And sci-fi and fantasy have a particular advantage at totally broadening our view into things that we wouldn't have ever considered before. So thank you for
absolutely.
letting me talk about a book.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, it's reminding me of an Asimov stuff. I love Asimov because he gives the rules of what AI and robots should be, but he also shows that humanity angle through them as well.
Yeah.
They made one into movie with Robin Williams, Bicentennial Man, I believe it was.
Oh, yeah. I have not seen that one yet. I know what you're talking about,
You
but yeah,
need to see it based on what you just told me. You will. It's one of those
I'm
ones
sure
where
I'll
it,
like
it,
it.
it does that same thing as a challenge. And Robin Williams, such a main rant on the side
Oh,
of
yeah.
acting that he when he plays dramatic parts and when he is serious. I mean, I love his humor too, but he can really bring to life something. And he was able to get the heart of that story and that humanity of that robot out so well. And it was such a beautiful challenging of all those ideas. And when are humans becoming more robotic, when they're replacing all
Right.
their limbs and their organs and things, and when are the robots more human than the people because of that? And the challenging and the ideas of the morality and the philosophy and all those things. And it's right. The Savior and the scriptures teach us through stories and help us to see and understand and give us a chance to not just tell us what's right and what's wrong and not
Mhm.
make an argument and a debate, but to give us a story and go, okay, what do you learn from this?
Right.
And then allow us to learn and do that, which I love is about literature, right? It's just
Yeah, absolutely.
we can each get our own things out of it. And I read Huck Finn, 20 years later, and I'm seeing something so different now because of my life experiences. And science fiction and short stories are the same. Every time you read it, you find something new. You can grasp onto something that's a gem and beautiful within that. So incredible. So you're a writer as well, then. Are
Yes.
your stories in there, or where are we finding yours?
No, I
When are we
am
going to get
very
yours?
passionate about if I don't have to for the sake of each issue. So, and trying to come back to the format. So, each issue, I try very hard to keep to between 4 to 6 authors per issue, and that will depend on like page length because I totally forgot an important attribute to our story. Can I go back a second?
Go for it.
Um,
Yes. Yep.
Every single issue is handmade. We make it literally in my house. My printers and cutters are right over there. I really should have included this part at the
That's
beginning
cool.
because it makes our story a lot more interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
that is.
if you have your copy or copies from LDSBMA, we're making those the weekend of conference. So we're just trying to we're trying to produce like 450 copies that we all gave away. So not only are they handmade, which I take a deep pride in, knowing that this is not something that we are shipping off to Amazon and allowing someone else to produce for us. This is literally 100% work that our authors have put in, and me and my wife. Regarding my stories, every now and again, I may include one, but I am not interested in using Infinite Valley as a self-publishing tool.
Mm.
I am only exclusively interested in getting other people's works out there. So every now and again, you may see my name on there. As of present, I am strictly a curator, and you will see my curator letters at the beginning of each issue where I go into rants such as the ones we have just enjoyed. So as of present, I have not much to advertise outside of Navu Supply Co. And if you're interested, our most active platform is X or Twitter. That is at underscore, because I couldn't get the actual one. It's at underscore Infinite Valley. And that's where you can find us. And our other parent companies it's navu.supply is the website. No.com in there, navu.supply. And 40 North Press is the imprint that they're using for their books. And that site is 40 North, the numbers 40 North dot press is the website. And that'll take you also to Navu Supply. And I guess if I can share one more thing,
Absolutely.
hopefully to share, because I am a big believer. I'm not officially employed through Navu Supply Co. That
Mhm.
ideally is changing soon. We are in talks with that. So
Yay.
I'm not an official employee yet. But a story that I think sells why I find this so important, not just in the realm of fiction, is if you pick up a book, say why I brought up the fact that we're hand making these, you'll often see at the beginning of each page it's like, oh, produced in Indonesia or a factory in Canada or something like that. Or of course, it's made in China. Brigham Young and Orson Pratt constantly warned the early saints in Utah not to import Babylon. They were very strict about that. And if you read some of their talks now, they probably come across as xenophobic because they probably were. And I'm not saying that necessarily
Unfortunately,
that
products of
they
their
should have
time.
been.
Yes. Yeah.
They just escaped persecution, so justifiably,
Go
I think.
figure.
But I don't want it to ever become the norm again if Navu Supply can take off and really get that message out there that actually we can be industrious. The Saints can produce their own works. Every now and again, if you get an order from Navu Supply Co., you get this cute little button for free, and it's Saint Made. We
Oh,
are Latter-day Saints. We are taking back the culture. And by golly, we're going to have fun doing it.
doing it. Yeah.
Yes. So I love Navu Supply Co. Please do check them out. They're really the only things I want to shout out outside of the magazine. And seriously, come on. It's a Metallica parody of the Book of Mormon. That's pretty freaking sick. So they got a
So
bunch of
cool.
cool stuff on there. So
I love it. And it's so good because it was Babylon itself. I think it was the metaphor of the world,
yeah,
right? Of
world. Yeah.
that, the negativity of the stuff that doesn't need to be there to lift us up. Because there's so much good. Why not do the good,
Yeah.
right? And there's enough bad in the world. We don't need to help it along for sure. in our life. And I love that you guys are sharing it and you and your wife get to work together
Yeah.
to literally create something. That's what my husband and I have been doing some lately is we've been making our own soaps and tallow based
Yeah.
products.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's just so
tallow.
much,
That's cool.
I know, right? Just so much fun for my husband and I to work together and doing, yeah, we're selling it and stuff like that too. But the time that I'm spending with my husband and creating and doing is it's like when I was we had the kids at home and they were at the plays together and we were spending time together as plays. And I just love that time that we get together doing and creating something good.
Yeah.
And I think that's the greatest thing out of this, besides great literature that we get to do
Thank you.
and experience. And this is good for all ages, I'm assuming, everyone.
Yes, every single issue of Infinite Valley can be read. There's nothing in there that is going to make you freak out, but optimally speaking, you're looking at about 12 plus. But that is not to say that it is literature for children or that it will be offensive toward them. So, I you're looking at about 12 to fully be able to engage probably with the content, but yeah.
Yeah. Unless you have children like me that are 5-year-olds are
That's
reading,
yes.
whatever. But
Yeah.
that's them to
That's
say.
the deal.
My mother was reading me the Odyssey when I was a child. So it's no big deal. But I love it. And I think this is wonderful. Is there any last message, anything that you'd like to share and leave our listeners with today as we go forward?
I my biggest plea and urge to your audience is if you actually care about the state of fiction, this is the time. We do have the means, we have the technology. Literally, I have the technology, it's on my desk. We can do this. We don't need to outsource everything to Babylon. As we are building culture, if you are interested in finding new venues, not only to buy from, but also to support and show that there is an interest in content that doesn't hate your values, it doesn't hate your religion, this really is the time. So if you write fiction, please come to Navu Supply Co. Our submission portal is always open. We keep it open all the time. Generally speaking, we have a boy, sorry, this is a very long shout out that I'm giving.
It's okay.
Our issues are bi-monthly, and generally speaking, this may change as we grow, but submissions for each issue close the 20th of the month prior to release. So if you have friends that are interested in writing, if you yourself are interested in writing and creating cool new culture that we really haven't seen before, join us at Infinite Valley, join us at Navu Supply Co. We do have a place for you. You don't need to import Babylon. We love you. Thank you.
That's awesome. I love it. You guys, hey, check out their work, support it, and also contribute to it. Bring your light, bring your message, and bring your voice to share and create this culture of plain fiction that we can all share and enjoy and bring new ideas to the world as well.
Amen.
Amen. Yes. And we hope you'll join us next time on Roundy's Rants, Raves, and Views. Know you're loved and have a very Merry Christmas, everyone. Talk
Merry
to you later.
Christmas.
Yeah.